We're not too dissimilar, you and I. We both like to think that we know how to drive. Now, while driving may be a large part of my career and what I do for a living, writing about cars and making video content about them, I'm well aware that my skills could always be a little bit better. It doesn't matter whether you've been driving for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, even 40 years. I can pretty much guarantee you that you will always benefit from attending a driving course, and particularly an advanced driving course. As a member of the South African Guild of Motoring Journalists, it is my responsibility to keep my skills honed. I'm also under no illusion that I am the best driver around. I may have a little bit of motorsport experience, and as I say, do this for a living in a sense. But I know that there are gaps in my knowledge, things that I could improve on. If I was the best, well, I'd have 7 world championships under my belt, wouldn't I? So today I'm on my way to go and polish my skills. I'm on my way to Jaguar Land Rover out in Lone Hill, Johannesburg, where their experience centre is hosting a driving academy. So I'm going to be going through the paces with their expert instructors who actually do drive for a living, on hand to show me the ropes, and so that I can, well, fine-tune and polish the skill set that I already have. I want you to join me and see what goes on in one of these, because not only is it very educational, it's a lot of fun too.
All good, thanks. Perfect, thank you.
All right, here we go. We're now at the Experience Centre, right here, this beautiful, beautiful building, and of course the beautiful Jaguar I-Pace, which we actually filmed right here. And of course they have the charging stations here behind me, and we're going to go through to reception and go and sign in. That's first port of call. The signing in process is also an effortless digital experience. They have assistants on hand that will walk you through it, and after that you get your armband and you're free to roam around. You can take a look at their showroom and of course take a look at some of the fantastic technology that is employed in Jaguar and Land Rover vehicles. You'll then make your way into the boardroom where you'll be greeted by one of their expert instructors. And they'll take you through the proceedings for the day, and then they'll go on to instructing you and educating you on driving skills. This includes looking for escape routes, dealing with weight transfer, and of course what causes a loss of traction and how to regain it once you've lost it. You'll then make your way down to the vehicles. Here you'll be taken through the different challenges, and in this one, well, we've got an emergency swerve and we have a slalom. That'll be followed by a little bit of skidpan action. Right, it's a sweltering day out here. It says it's 32 degrees out here on the tarmac, and they've got this section where we're going to be doing an emergency lane change and we're going to be doing a slalom exercise. Now this is less about, well, showcasing the Jaguar products and less about the driver skills, but more adapting our driver skills for different vehicles. So we do have a host of different vehicles here, from sports cars to, well, like this XF 300 Sport sedan that I'm in, well, sedan cars, and of course there's a F-Type as well. We even have the electric I-Pace here. And this is going to give us an idea of how the various vehicles react through the same sort of challenge. It's one of the important things for us journalists. We've got to be able to reset ourselves. We've got to be able to adapt to the way that different vehicles handle. Not all vehicles are created equal. And even in the same brand, well, that F-Pace is going to drive a little differently and handle a little differently to the F-Type. So out I went in the XF 300 Sport. The first step was making my way up to about 80 kilometers an hour, and then of course climbing onto the brakes and swerving around the cones. This allowed me to feel how the ABS works, as well as all the other assistance systems that prevent you from spinning out in such an instance. Next up was the slalom, and of course this is now watching the weight transfer and being very gentle with all the inputs, the throttle and the steering. So this is our first big changeover. It's a big, whopping F-Pace. Now, I've had a lot of fun in these cars in the past, but I haven't driven the SVR version. So we're going to see now. Now I need to change. I need to see how this vehicle changes from the XF that I just climbed out of in terms of weight distribution, power delivery, steering response, all those kind of things. And yes, it picks up a lot of speed a lot faster. It's also slower to respond. You turn it, and as performance orientated as this SUV is, it's still slower to respond. You steer and there's just, well, it's milliseconds, but if you're paying attention, you can actually pick it up. It is detectable. And especially when you're driving vehicles back to back, when you come from a sedan or a sports car into an SUV, yeah, you're going to feel it. But you may not ordinarily feel it if you're accustomed to driving it. But all of these things need to be factored in when you are driving the vehicle. You need to stay reminded that you are, in fact, in an SUV that responds a little slower, that has a little more weight, that is going to transfer a little more weight. And of course, now this is one of those cars that you will always love driving. And it is, of course, let me get it right, the Jaguar F-Type. Now, I have spent some time with the previous generation. This is the updated, facelifted version. And of course, this is the one that everybody wants to play with. It is the F-Type. It is the P380. Does not sound as good as that F-Pace though, but it is a beautiful driver-orientated car. So the steering is a lot faster. It moves around at the back end a lot quicker. It doesn't have the same amount of body roll, so there isn't the same amount of weight transfer, but there is still weight transfer happening. Our final activity for the day was the skidpan, and this is the one that everybody looks forward to. We'd be playing with the F-Type and an XF300 Sport. Both of them are rear-wheel drive vehicles, and we'd be deliberately losing control of the vehicle to see how it reacts, and of course trying to catch it. We first did a couple of runs with the DSC on to see how it tries to save a spin out. After that, we'd switch the DSC off completely, and then it was up to us to counter steer and modulate the throttle accordingly in order to save the spin.
Accelerate now. There you go. Okay, so stop here for me. So now put it in sport. I'll switch the DSC off. In sport, pull the pedal shift to second gear. Fantastic, there we go.
All right.
Yeah, DSC off now.
DSC off. All right, same story now, just
keep the same speed, everything. That's it, just like accelerate.
Now, unfortunately, due to time constraints, I wasn't able to film my experience in the F-Type, but I can tell you it was just as much fun in this XF300 Sport.
You've done this before, eh?
I may have.
And go for it. There you go. Fantastic. Well done. And then head on like that.
Okay. So that's it, we've wrapped up the day. It is only a half-day experience here at the centre, but we learned some valuable things. Well, I learned some valuable things. I learned about keeping my vision nice and far ahead. Where you look is where you'll go, and don't look at the problem or the obstacle, you know, look at the escape route. And that was really, really handy, especially through that emergency braking situation. Then I also really just sort of fine-tuned and dialed in that, you know, that weight transfer thing, and learning that if the DSC in that is coming in, it's because of something that I'm doing wrong. I'm being a little too ham-fisted with my steering inputs, or I'm being a little too aggressive with the throttle or with the brake. And it's just nice as a refresher. It's a lot of the things that I know, but it's the things that I forget so often. It's a half-day experience, and it really is worth the money. You really should. And bring your family down here to the Experience Centre as well, because there's activities for kids. There's small little Range Rovers and Land Rovers for them to ride on. There's a lovely restaurant here, and the food was lovely. But it was the experience of driving the vehicles in these conditions with the expert advice of the instructors on hand that really makes this worthwhile. It makes you a safer driver. I remember when I attended my very first advanced driving course, it was less than a month before that course had really literally saved my backside. I got into a situation, and had it not been for all that training that I'd received, I probably would not be here making this video for you guys. So I'd highly recommend that everybody at least sometime attends one of these courses, whether it's just a skid control course or just a small dynamic handling. It doesn't have to be the super expensive course, just to give you an idea of what a car is and isn't capable of.